How you doing?
Hi, Lee. How are you? Luke,
All
how
right.
are you, man?
Not bad.
I'm so glad it's you because I was like, it can't be anyone else. Montreal, Steven Gerrard. Dude, how are you?
I'm very good. Nice to see you.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time.
It has been a long time, but yeah, you haven't changed.
You either, man. You either.
Yeah, I don't know
When's
about
the
that.
last time you spoke to each other?
Probably 2012, I want to say. Did
Is
we
it?
speak when we was doing No Devotion?
No, we didn't speak about it, but yeah, I'm not even sure myself. But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
probably around 2012, I'd say.
so we get to talk about this new thing for you. That's cool.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, I've just been listening to the album. It's so good.
Oh,
Thanks, man.
excellent.
So good. It's what we need right now, I think. So let's go. Let's get started. Let's talk about how this all started. Like, what was the initial like spark for you and getting this band together, and what did you want from it from day one?
So me and Luke obviously were in bands back home in England. Um, both bands ended and kind of didn't really know what to do with ourselves. Luke in particular was just like, I'm fucking done with music. I did a bit of like session stuff and I was like, right, I just want to do something cool. And I'd kind of written a few songs and recorded them. And then me and Luke had known each other for a bit, kind of not well, but we knew each other because we were two Brits living in LA. And then he put a comment on something and we started messaging back and forth. And he was like, oh, what's going on with the band? I was like, oh, the band's done. But I'm working on this new thing. I kind of need a drummer. Like it'd be really cool. So I sent him the songs and he was like, this is fucking great. Cause it was kind of, we were both into like Super Heaven and obviously we're old 90s grunge kids. So all we love is, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, Alice in Chains, Pumpkins, that stuff. So, yeah, so the demos, we met up in LA in a pub. We knew that we could both play. So that was fine. It was just like, are we going to be cool hanging out with each other? So we went to the dark room on Melrose and had a couple of beers and we were just like, this is going to be really cool. So started from there, really. I was going to Luke's every weekend in Orange County to record songs. And I don't think we were even like, oh, we need to make this a touring band or a live thing. We were just like, it was nice to just do something real again and bounce off each other. And we bounce off each other really well recording, like it comes together really fast. And then we were like, man, we've got a load of songs already. This came together really fast. And he was like, oh, I know a bass player. It's going to be really cool. Because what was Night Jacket? You were only in them for like one show there, right? Filling in.
They asked me if I could fill in for two shows, I think it was. So I played
Yeah.
two shows. My mate was in another band called Night Jacket. He played in a ton of bands though. He's like bouncing around a lot of different bands, but at the time he was in Night Jacket, which is a very kind of like low-key, shoegazy, kind of indie, LA indie band. They asked me to play with hot rods because I'm just too, you know my style, Steve. I'm very largest drumsticks I can find. So I definitely wasn't a fit over there.
Nice.
But I was helping him out, but then when he had left that band, we kind of snagged him off for this. But it was, I feel like the spark really was kind of just, I don't know if you have it there living in Montreal. I'm probably sure being Commonwealth, there's a lot more Brits and French over there. In LA, I feel like there's a ton of Brits, but now that I live in Arizona, like sometimes there's the connection's just missing, right? Like, and so getting with Lee, we were like pretty much we're exactly the same age, right? Yeah. No, I'm older than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Only
we're in
by
the same age bracket, man. We're the same things. Like the relatability was just like immediately there. And so that was nice to have that. But I think like when we started writing, very similar writing styles, like he said, went to the pub, hit it off. I think when we were trying to figure out what will this be, like it started off as just writing songs to scratch the creative itch. And so we wrote like songs were just coming out. And I don't know if it was because we were like being unfiltered and not sort of like we were just writing a song and being like, that's a song done. We weren't like overthinking anything. And so the songs were just coming out real quick. And we were like, man, we could probably make an album. And so that's when it kind of started to be like, well, maybe we should get some other people and maybe we should play a show. But I think the real kind of coin drop moment for us was when we were both sort of sharing, comments and love for. I don't know if you've ever seen that Foo Fighters 1995 headline show at Brixton Academy.
I've seen it.
Man, if you haven't seen it, go just Google it, YouTube it. We were watching and we were like, this is exactly what we want to be, right? It's like two guitars, bass, drums, one backing vocal, and a singer just like blowing his voice out, right? The energy. And it's like, I feel like so much of that is missing. Like I got chills. I still get chills watching it. I'm getting chills talking about it. But, literally we were just kind of like, all right, we're a guitar band anyway, but let's just be extremely analog about this whole band. Let's not, let's not have anything like super technological in the band. And so to this day, we've kind of always prided ourselves on being like a 16 to 18 channel band, right? Like the easiest thing the front of house guy's ever going to mix in years. There's no samples, backing tracks, triggers, no trickery, right? And it's been that since kind of day one. And I think at some point I was saying earlier on to Lee, like maybe that will bite us in the ass in future if we kind of like turn a corner and try to sort of like, use some different shades in our music creation, right? Because obviously it is quite limiting. Like Radiohead did their first record, Pablo Honey, right? And it's kind of like, it's all very kind of rock bandy, and then they started turning the corner, and then now look where they are, right? They could live without synth. So I'm not saying we're going to turn into Radiohead or anything like that. I mean, we probably couldn't if we tried. But I'm just saying, I think as bands go on, they get bored of their original formulas and need to evolve. And so being so anti-technology and an analog band, I think at some point there may be a kind of rub, but right now we love it, and that's where we're at.
Yeah. So when are we talking? When did this all start? When you met up the first time in the pub? And
2016. I just got married.
Yeah, 16, 17, yeah, right at the end of the year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then
we were talking before, but we didn't meet up till the end of the year. I think at the end of the year is when we got in the, have a thumbs up. I think at the end of the year is when we got in the studio.
Yeah. And then,
so that's over 7 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Played our first show in 2017.
Yeah, okay. At the Troubadour. And then we did loads of stuff.
That's your first show at the Troubadour?
Yeah, first show.
Support.
It was supporting, okay. Yes, definitely not.
Opening for a British band called Moose Blood. They
I remember them.
They were just like, fuck yeah, come and play this show with us. And we were like, holy shit. And then it was sold out. And we were like, first ever show, opening slot at a sold out show. We were like, wicked. So. And
then second show was supporting The Used. That was sold out. And third show was supporting Sayasin, and that was sold out. And we're like, whoa, what the hell is going on? And then it went horrifically downhill from there.
we actually bagged a European tour with The Used right after that. And then we were like, man,
2018, wasn't it?
Our fourth show will be the first show of a tour with a pretty big band. We were like, man, that's not bad going, considering we had no expectations for this band, right? This is great. And then we got out there. We're driving, first shows in Stockholm. We're driving out. So we've obviously, as a band, not got a ton of money in the pool. So we're just, everything's out of our own pockets. So let's keep it as frugal as possible. Hire the cheapest van possible, get the cheapest non-refundable flights, get the cheapest non-refundable fares. Let's just get out there and keep all the costs down. Bang, on the way to Stockholm, phone rings, tour manager. We're in Ghent. It's like, tour's cancelled. I said, nah, man, you're joking. You're winding me up, because I'm mates with all of them. So I was like, you're winding me up, man. This is a wind up. And he's like, nah, it's cancelled. He's like, there's been a death in the band's family. We're like, what? And so we were like, man, what do we do now? And so we literally sat in a petrol station on the side of the road, just kind of having a moment of like, what the hell's going on? And so a couple of them scarpered into the petrol station to get beers, and they came out, like, started chinning these beers, like, oh. And then it turns out they were non-alcoholic beers, which is hilarious as well. We ended up basically deciding to fight against it and go back to the UK immediately We had to book another ferry. We stayed at my mate's house in London. I rang up some friends that I knew in London, including actually Ross, who books us now, who's an absolute legend. And I just said, can you help us out? So he helped us. And then using Facebook, I've never, people always post that thing online and they say, all right, social media, do your thing, right? Like, and they want to get something. That was kind of what happened to us. We didn't post that. We're not that cheesy. But we basically leveraged Facebook, right, to have a load of people in our network help us out find shows. And so basically Career Suicide booked a 13-show headline tour in the UK, only having one song out and having played 3 shows.
But wasn't it, we got back to England on the Friday night, and then by Monday we started. Like, so over the course of the weekend, we booked the entire 13 days.
Crazy.
And I think we had to do it because we could have just turned around and come home. But at the end of the 2-week used tour, I think we had a headline London show and a Radio 1 BBC session booked. So it was like, if we turn around now, we're going to blow those 2 things off. So we're like, let's just make all the things up in between. And somehow we made it work. It was nuts, man. Like, taking any show, every show was different. It was like, we're going to open for this band here, headline this one here. But it was like, but we had people coming to watch us that were like into our old bands, and they're just like, they knew one song. And it's just like, well, you're going to have to wait to the end of the set to hear it. So you're going to have to listen to 45 minutes first.
The funniest point of the tour was in Edinburgh at Bannerman's, which is like a legendary little punk venue. And we absolutely loved it there. And basically, like, he was like, I'm sorry, lads. He's like, we've had like, I think 7 tickets sold. He's like, and both support bands pulled out. He said, and they were bringing some people. He's like, I'm really sorry. And we were like, whatever, man. Like, nothing's new to us at this point. Like, and he was like, well, there's just no support. And in the front of the bar, there was a guy on an acoustic guitar. Simon doing covers. What a legend. He was doing covers, and there was just a bunch of people getting wrecked in there, like, watching. And so he kind of took a break to get a pint. And I said, all right, mate. I said, are you around all night? And he said, no. He said, I think I'm going to do another little bit of few songs, and then I'm going to dip out. And I was like, all right, well, do you want to open the show that we're playing next door? I was like, we have 7 tickets sold. I was like, and no money to pay you, but I'll buy you a pizza. And he's like, done. He came in and opened the show for us. He was great. And then we played a show. I think by that point, I think we had about 15 people in. But yeah, it was very funny. I like the story, like the stress of that whole thing was horrible. But the story that we got in return is great. So
yeah. So what was the high point of that tour? Like, did you have some good gigs as well?
Yeah, London.
London was great. London was great.
Man, like, we did a London show at the Black Heart, and we worked with Killy, and they were just like, look, man, we're gonna do a free show. They were like, we've got 2 wicked bands, and they were like, let's just smash it. And we were like, yep, sounds perfect. No one knows who our band is, so let's do it. And it was rammed front to back, and we were like, shit. We're not, by any means thinking that was an audience for us, but they did stick around and watch us, and they enjoyed it, and we sold a lot of merch. And at the same time, 2 days before that, we'd just done Radio 1 session for Dan. And so that went out on the Monday, actually, like right after we got off stage, that was on the radio. So it was kind of cool to wrap up all this kind of trauma in a London show that was actually packed out. And, a lot of our friends came down, and then also have the Radio 1 live session go out. And, a bunch of people were kind of emailing and messaging in, and Dan was forwarding it to us. So that was a nice way to end.
So I don't need to ask you where the title Freaking Out came from, because you've just been freaking out through your whole career, it sounds like.
It's been in the short summary, obviously the first 3 shows and the initial kind of like, we're doing a band, there was like people messaging us. We did the first 3 shows, sold out. From there, it basically went like this, and everything became really hard. We came back and we had a little bit of a minute in 2018. We got Reading and Leeds. And then the Used were like, hey, we're going to do shows. Come play these shows with us instead. So we did those. That was wicked. Got a little bit of buzz going from that. You know, and then 2019 was grim. Not a single show. Did we play any shows in We played one.
We did a few.
Yeah, we played well, I remember it as one. We played at the Viper Room, which I'll never do again in my life. Doesn't matter what band it is. Like Viper Room show, I'm on holiday. See you later. So I'll never play there again.
Why?
What?
I think it's gone now, isn't it? The Viper Room.
Yeah, it's like the legendary venue, like whiskey.
Yeah, I've seen some shows there.
Yeah, but it's more of a tourist spot, right? It's more of like, man, it would be so great to play the Viper Room, but it's not, right? Like that particular show there, right? We got made to use the in-house drum kit, which was insane. We asked the bartender, hey man, can we get some waters for stage? And he said, no, I'll give them you when it's your time. And I was just kind of like, fuck this place, man. It's the kind of gaff that's like, you know, it basically is like a posing spot, right? Like as a poser spot. And so to get talked to like that, especially the amount of times I've been around the block, I'm just like, I'm at the place where everybody should be treated with care and kindness, right? Like there's just no need to be a fucking knob, right? And this geezer was
Dude, the amount of money we lost on that show purely from parking alone. Like they have their own parking lot and you have to pay to park. And it's like, dude, I remember just being like, we just got rinsed for like $200 of parking.
It's typical Sunset Boulevard shit. So yeah, that was a whack show that we played then. And then basically, yes, 2019 was a write-off. We were like, man, we're stressing. And then 2020 comes around. I remember being at Leeds doing a writing session, January, and it's like, boom, we got a tour, European tour with New Year's Day. And we were like, fucking finally. So like we put a tune out, we were like got ready, we put a couple of tunes out. That was being really well received and it got tune of the week on Radio 1 Rock Show. So we were like, all right, great. And then obviously as we get into March on that tour, shows get cancelled because of COVID. So it's like, you know, shows started falling off and then basically we're in 2 years of like hell like everyone else, which is actually when we made this record. We came to the UK in the middle of the pandemic. You know, I'm not sure if you went back to the UK in that period, Steve, but they had like there was Boris presenting his like various levels, states like he had that color code system,
threat levels.
Yeah, the threat levels, right? And basically, it was at a level where you could travel into the UK and you didn't have to quarantine at Heathrow, but you had to quarantine in place. So it basically meant that we had to go back and then when we got to the studio, we couldn't leave the studio for 2 weeks until we tested negative, which none of us were positive in the first place. So we thought, that's fine. We'll be in the studio. We're making a record, so we don't need to leave. We might need to go to the grocery store to buy some food. That's it, you know? And so that's basically when the record got made in that period. And then it took 2 years for us to find a label partner. So it's been a series of misstarts for the band, without a shadow of a doubt. Some soul-crushing times. And definitely like wondering like, man, maybe it's like just got to hang it up, you know what I mean? Like, but then you know, some kid rolls online and tags you in a post where they've got a Lowlives tattoo, and you're like, what the fuck?
Wow.
Excuse my language. Yeah, we got like it's eight
of them now.
Yeah,
really nice. And all of this stuff makes for good songs, right? Like all these rides makes for good songs. So speaking of songs, which is the oldest song on the album?
Ooh.
Damien, I guess, is the oldest one, isn't it?
Yeah. So Damien, we actually wrote for the first record that ended up not becoming a record.
We should explain that too, shouldn't we? So when we were going to do that tour pre-COVID, going ape shit, we'd had this whole record ready to go. Like, we're just going to release this as a record. And then COVID hits, we drip fed out all those songs as A's and B's. So like just 2 song singles, because we just needed content and songs to release. So it still feels a bit weird now because we class this album that's just about to come out as our second record, but technically it is actually our first record. So
and Damien was actually part of that. It was a demo called Home at the time. Right? We even tracked it. We just didn't have any vocal melodies or lyrics, but we were like, let's bang it down and we can figure out that afterwards. We can always jump in and, if we get kind of what we want to sing about in the song, down for that. And it just didn't ever get done. It just stayed on the shelf. And yeah, to be honest with you, it probably would have never come back off the shelf. We probably wouldn't have revisited it. But when we started working with, when we started working with Adrian, it was kind of like, this is a guy that's won 2 Grammys. Let's let him pick the songs. What does he think out of I think we probably did a Dropbox of 20 songs.
Yeah, right? About 20.
And that was in there because it was left over. And yeah, he picked out that one as well. He said, I really want to work on this. He said, I think this makes a good, energetic record, which is something that's probably would never normally done. But I think, given his kind of repertoire and what he's worked on and the bands that he's worked with, we were just kind of like, maybe making a record we'd be too close to picking. So let's have him pick, and then if there's anything we absolutely disagree with on there, then we'll get it off, right? And if there's anything that's not on there, but we were kind of like, all right, let's give it a whirl. We got in the studio, we put everything down, and it was all going down so quick and smooth that we had like 5 extra days left at the end. We'd done all the tracking, and he's like, I think we could do some extra songs. And so we were like, all right. So we shoehorned 2 extra songs in there, and basically we got a 10-track album, 2 B-sides. And that's what we kind of left with.
Yeah. So is the album coming out 31st of May now?
Yes.
Yeah, 31st of May.
Originally it was going to be earlier, right?
Yeah.
I think possibly it was. I'll be honest with you. Normally I'm the guy that's like choosing all that stuff when we do DIY releases, so it's burned into my brain. We were given a schedule. I think the initial goal was that it was going to be April. But who knows the internal workings of a record label, whatever their orders of stuff are. And then also I think getting the artwork squared away took a little bit longer than expected. So I think that kind of had a negative impact on the date that we could release, right? Because they had to get the vinyls off for pressing and all that stuff.
And vinyl pressing too.
Yeah.
That's vinyl, isn't it?
A major delay.
Yeah. So 2 things. We should mention this is on Spine Farm. So, you're on the same label as like Refused and Sleep Token, who are doing amazing things now, even like Killing Joke. Like you're in
Killing Joke
good company. Yeah.
I have a Killing Joke tattoo.
Wow. There you go. So comes out 31st of May. Which songs are you most excited for people to hear that they haven't heard yet?
It's a song called Swan Dive that I really like. It's very Alice in Chains. My favorite song on the record is the last song called Vertigo. It's like the acoustic-y song that has cello on it. It's just really stripped down. It was really fun to write. I don't know. I love that song. What about you, Luke?
Me too. Luke?
Probably, I was going to say Swan Dive as well. Like that's just got a real kind of like, headbang, like slow headbang. And it does have an Alice in Chains vibe to it. I agree. But I think Closer Than You Know is like, I still get chills listening to that song. And I think what I was explaining yesterday, we had another interview and I was explaining on that, and I'll say it again, like, is that I had no part in the lyric writing on that song. Lee came up with this concept, and it just, from the minute he told me what it was going to be about to the minute that he finished it and delivered it, like it knocks the wind out of my chest. And so it's very weird to be able to consume a song that is from a band that I'm in, that like I'm actually not consuming it and looking at it objectively like, oh yeah, like you look at your own music differently to other music that you consume, right? And so that song, for some reason, I'm able to remove myself from any partaking in it. And obviously the lyrics I didn't. So I'm able to consume it from like a consumer's point of view, and it never gets old, man. I just love how big it is, like at the start with the chugs coming in, and then the lyrical content, like the story just sets me off. So that's probably the high point on the record for me, even though it's a low point lyrically.
Yeah. That's often the case, though.
It's kind of an upbeat song, but not an upbeat song. It's got like a dark undertone. So
yeah,
we had that. That was quite an old song too, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was actually,
we've had that.
The demo was called Weezer. Yeah.
Well, for me, the first song that really like smashed me was "You Don't Care."
Oh, nice.
I was listening to the album. I was thinking, this is great. This is what I need to hear at the moment. And then that song came on. I'm like, whoa. Like, it's got so much energy. It's got a bit of that Pumpkins, Siamese Dream kind of like.
The demo was called Pumpkins.
Pumpkins as fuck.
He knows Pumpkins is my favorite band, right? And we're both just going back and forth, like re-diving into the greats. And he's like, I'm just going to write a Pumpkins rip. And I was like, yeah, okay. I was like, don't make it too obvious. We won't be able to use it. And he sent it, and I went, I absolutely love this song, but it's too blatant. Like, can't do it. Can't do it. And then like, listen to it some more. Could not listen to it. I'm like, fuck, this is so good, man. Like, could we get away with doing this tune? You know? And then like, we're like, we should do this tune. And then when we sent the tunes to Bushby and said, pick some songs, he was right in on that tune. Yeah. And I love that song. There's actually a funny story, Steve, about the recording that song. There wasn't too many rubs in the actual creation of this record, like as in rubs between us creatively and the producer creatively, right? That song, there was a massive rub on. And I think
tiniest part.
On the tiniest part, right? But the way that Lee had done it in his demo version, right? Verse 1 was on the hi-hats, and it carries so much more energy. And Aid was like, man, we've got to go down to the toms. I'm like, we're doing that in verse 2, man. I'm like, it needs to keep the energy, you know? He's like, but going down to the toms. And it was like a massive back and forth. And then it would literally, we'd sit in our seats and be like, how many Grammys have we won? And how many Grammys has Aid won? So we were like, all right, Aid, this better win a Grammy, mate. You better sprinkle the Grammy juice on it if we're going to the toms. And so even now, I think me and Lee, like, you know, we always joked about having a version where I go to the hi-hats and that's the only version that we listen to.
The alternate version. I think even afterwards when we were mixing it, we were like, is there a way that we could like cheat this and put hats over that? Because we put it to a band vote. So because there was obviously 4 in the band and Adrian. And it was me and Luke versus the other 3, because the other 2 in our band were like, well, he's got Grammys. So we should just listen to him. And even now, if it comes up in conversation, I'm like, you fucking guys.
Can you change it when you play it live now? Like, can you do it your way live?
We could, yeah. It's not been played live yet, but we could. No. In fact, we may well do. Thank you. We may well do that, and I'll think of you when I do it. It's funny though. You made a comment and said that when You Don't Care, you were like, I was in, and we need this, and then You Don't Care hits. It's actually really funny because that's how I see the album. Like, I listened to the first like 5 tracks on the album, and it's like I dig it and it makes sense, but where it really comes into what I feel is like, when I say me, like my absolute like, yeah, is when it hits that song. From that song out, I'm kind of like, that's where I feel like we've hit our like stride of who we are. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that the other songs are not who we are. That's definitely us and it came from us. But it feels like, you know, some songs you've got to play the game a little bit, right? And so there's always this like battle of kind of like, you know, sure, we could have a 7-minute song of just feedback and like smashing stuff up, right? Like, it's not really going to sell many records, even if that's how we feel. So there's always an element of like trying to be mindful of like, well, we should have some like singles, right? And so I feel like because the front half of the record is kind of single stacked heavy, you know, I think maybe I've heard those songs so many times. And then as you get deeper in the record, I think we've really kind of come into our own. That's at least how I feel about it.
You touched on the artwork, which is a beautiful thing. I love the album cover. What can you tell me about that? Where did that come from?
Michael
we had so many covers, like different concepts. Like, the artwork was the hardest thing about this entire record.
Agreed.
By a massive distance. Music was a piece of piss. It was just that was a fucking nightmare. So we kept on going back and forth with all these different ideas. I think I have a folder saved of every mock-up cover we had. I think we are pushing like 30 covers. And then one day, obviously we don't know him personally. We didn't know him personally, Michael Reeder. So I'd found this cover and I was just like, man, this would look so good as a cover. Maybe we should like reach out to him. So we spoke to Dan, our A&R guy, and he was like, oh, I can reach out to him because Dan's an artist as well. And then Dan reached out and was like, would you be interested in working with these guys? They need, album cover. And how many single covers is it? One, two,
it was three. It was because we already had put Freaking Out.
Yes, that was it. So Dan reached out to him and he was like, would you want to do it? And he was like, fuck yeah, I'm into the band. I would love to do it. So I'm really like so happy. Like I'm glad we went through all the shit of finding all those covers to get to his stuff, because his stuff is just insane.
Interestingly, and this will probably never come up in any other interview, but I'll bring it up with you because you'll probably get it. But do you remember the Wonder Stuff, right?
Of course.
Yeah, so like obviously my dad managed the Wonder Stuff or whatever. We absolutely love the Wonder Stuff artwork, right? Like there's so many amazing like LPs and like, so I was like, I've known Hazel since I was a kid. She's known me since I was 6. And so I reached out to Milo and I said, mate, I want to get in touch with Hazel. I said, I think I want to see if she'll do the art for this album. And we reached out to her. She was all about it. And she basically was like, her approach was magnificent. We had many Zoom calls with her. I think what we were looking for, and it's rough, right? Because it's like, I'll explain it like this in advance, is like every band that's on its 4th or 5th record and the fan just wants the band to sound like their first record, right? And they're like we're not just going to keep making our first record, right? Ultimately, I think that's where with Hazel, she kept coming up with ideas that were like so wicked, but we didn't feel quite suited what we were trying to do. And also, obviously, it's a personal friendship, so that was difficult for me to, like, I obviously didn't want to offend her on her art because it was incredible. It just didn't suit what we were looking for. We basically wanted her just to rehash that like pop art kind of vibe with the original Stuff he's covered. So, I figured you might find that interesting. We took a misstep there and, it was a difficult conversation and I was kind of gutted, but I was like, all right, I'm not going to kind of push any other art concepts from here on out. I'm just going to, like I felt like I tried that with a friend and it ended up not working out. But yeah, it was cool to work with Hazel. She actually still works at the Mac in Brum teaching. She does all the collaging and stuff, and her collages are amazing. Like some of the stuff on her Instagram, yeah. So, but yeah,
it's funny. A lot of people wouldn't have heard of the Wonder Stuff, obviously, especially now. But I saw the Wonder Stuff headline Phoenix Festival.
Yep, 94.
And the other headliner was David Bowie, I think.
Yes, I remember. He had the big eyeballs on stage, didn't he?
Yeah. So that just shows you how popular they were for, a moment.
Well, same, wasn't it? 92 was the Nirvana year, wasn't it? Nirvana headlining one day and Wonder Stuff.
Sunday. Yeah, Reading 92 was one.
That was Reading, yeah.
Reading and Nirvana on the Sunday. The funny thing is, right, my favorite book that I've read in the last God knows how many years is Dave's book, right? And he mentions the Wonder Stuff in that, and I couldn't believe it. I was on vacation with my wife. We had a little getaway vacation from the kids, and so I took the book with me to Hawaii, and I absolutely just spent the entire time with my face in it. And I remember like seeing like he mentioned about the Wonder Stuff, and I was like, no fucking way, man. I'm like, Dave Grohl knows who the Wonder Stuff are. Like I text my dad straight away. I was like, man, Dave Grohl name drops the Wonder Stuff in his book, man. Kind of blew them up. Yeah.
Dave has a weird kind of encyclopedic knowledge, though, I think, of most music.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously in this massive band, but then he's a massive like Celtic Frost fan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That Probot record he did was so good.
I've just been going back and listening to that.
Great, man.
So good. Yeah. Yeah, that was our dream support slot. If like the bucket list item for this band, like we've always wanted to support Foo Fighters. Like we've just like, how can we get to support Foo Fighters. That's one of our goals as a band.
Yeah,
we can do that. We'll be done afterwards.
See, Foo Fighters are a band that they don't pick support bands that you would necessarily expect.
No, they don't. No.
And they do pick support bands that a lot of people might not have heard of.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know,
I actually toured with Shifty in my old with Beat Union. He was doing Jackson United, and what was beautiful about that run of shows, we did a run of US shows with him, was that it's always the drummer that's the tour manager, right? The driver and the tour manager. It's been my entire life. And so like at that time I was like drums and driving. That was me, driving and TM. And interestingly, for Jackson United, he was doing it all himself, right? Like you got a Foo Fighter who's in like arguably one of the biggest bands on the planet, right? And he's driving, tour managing. And I remember him saying like, let's switch numbers. And it's like, let's just coordinate and make sure we caravan every day and make sure we both got what we need. And I was just like, this to me is mind blowing that I'm working with someone on this level who's like not scared to roll up his sleeves, get on the road, do it himself, right? He had his I think he had his nephew playing in a band. One of the lads, the drummer out of Mighty Boss Tones was in a band, and I don't remember who the other guy was, but they smashed it every night. And it was so refreshing to work with somebody on such a high level that was willing to play shithole toilet venues, play a punk rock show, and like just be a human being. You know what I mean? It was awesome. So,
dude, he's still doing the same thing now. My friend Fox plays bass in his band now, and he was like, he just TMs and drives everything. They just get in a split band with minimal gear, just like little combos each, and they just go and play any shithole around America. And Chris Shiflett just rolls up like it's just like, hey, how's it going? I'm just like, what's up, dude? And he just runs it. So it's mental to me.
There you go. Well, when you hit the big time, remember that. Keep it humble.
Yeah, I know.
100%.
Let's wrap up. We've been talking a while. The album's coming out, and then what's the rest of the year like?
We've got Download, and then we're going to do some European shows around Download Festival, and then see what happens. We have some American enormous festivals that we've got to do later on in the year. We'll be trying to get back to England and Europe again, winter time, fall winter time. Yeah, just a lot of shows, hopefully.
Yeah, we got Louder Than Life and Aftershock, and then we've also been writing. We never stopped writing. Lee literally just came out to me in Arizona last week, and we wrote another 4 songs. So we're probably about 10 to 12 songs deep for the next record, also with a goal of maybe having about 20 to pick from. So we don't want to get caught, like, you know, we had a massive gap 2 years, and it's like, you know, people are like, when's the album coming? We didn't want to kind of get caught up in like album cycle stuff and not have time to write. So we've trying to get ahead of the curve and be ready for when it's like, all right, get in the studio and have a lesser gap for the next one. We'd love to have an album out in like 12 to 18 months after the release of this one. So
I was going to say that's kind of what it is nowadays, isn't it? Hang on, my dad is calling me.
Now, Dad.
There you go, I'm back. That's the thing nowadays with streaming stuff. People's, you know, attention span is so short. You just have to keep on releasing music. You can't, unless you're fucking Tool or Nine Inch Nails, you can't leave fucking 5 years between records anymore. You just have to keep on putting out content. And we always thought, like, when we were releasing what was meant to be the last record as singles, we were like, that will tide it over. But even when you do that every 2 months, release 2 songs, people are still like, when's the album coming out? When's the album coming out? So I think people are still hungry for records as well as just constantly releasing singles. So I think, yeah, we just need to, I think every 12 to 18 months, we just need a new record to come out, just because it keeps people's attention. As soon as we release music, the hype comes up. But we notice now, like, you look at streaming numbers and everything and your monthly listeners, man, that dips earlier and earlier every time now. Like, even like a week after a single, you'll see it start to dip already, which is just mental. So yeah, key now is just keep on releasing music. Nice.
And come into Montreal at some point, I hope.
I'd love that. I've never been to Montreal.
It's cool.
Oh, yeah, I've heard it's pretty cool.
I recommend it.
Maybe we'll just like be real greedy and ask Neil to take us out again.
Yeah, we should. Bastard.
There you go. That'd work. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause we've only,
crowds here.
as this band, we've only been to Toronto. That was it, isn't it?
Yeah, we played Bovine, North by Northeast. Yeah, Ian from Billy Talent put us on there. Very, very legendary little spot there. I'm sure you've been there, right? You've been to Bovine?
I've only been to Toronto once.
Okay.
Oh, really?
It's
Yeah,
like
I've never seen the show there.
Canada.
Yeah, I need to explore more. So amazing. Well, it sounds like good things are happening. I'm excited to see what happens next with the album dropping and what's going on in the rest of the year. So yeah, good luck with it all.
Questions real quick. Did you know that I was playing this band, or is this just pure?
I knew.
Oh,
So
you
yeah, straight away.
Oh, I knew.
Yeah, all right. Because I'm really stoked to reconnect. That's really awesome. I've seen your name pop up. I was like real hyped. So yeah, thanks for having us on, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was nice talking to you. So
Sweet.
yeah, you take care and thanks for your time and hopefully I'll see you in real life soon.
Get some balloons.
Cheers, Steve.
All right.
Yeah, mate.